It took me a very long time to accept support and to know how important that is to receive. I've always kind of been a big giver, but it was always very hard for me to receive. So I'm passionate about it because I know the journey that I had to go through to accept support. I'm also passionate about it because I see how much it holds people back from living their best life because they're afraid to ask for support or really receive support. And that ranges from my friends to my clients to my family. Brene Brown recently did a segment on trust, and part of how she broke trust down was about being able to receive support. And that receiving support is an important part of building trust, because if you don't know how to receive support, then how can others feel comfortable in asking for support? So I really encourage you to check out her segment. Search Super Soul Sundays, Brene Brown, Trust, and it will come up in Google. But the point I want to make here is that support is it's your right. It's your right to receive support with whatever it is you're going through. And it doesn't need to be reciprocated. I think a lot of times people hold themselves back from asking because they may feel like they have nothing to give, or they feel like it has to be tit for tat. And that's not how life works. Life doesn't work where I give you something, immediately I get something in return, right? It's karma, it's whatever you want to call it. It's the giving and receiving is something that can be in flow all the time. And it's about your perspective on it too. You can't certainly be giving all the time, nor can you just be receiving all the time. So yeah, we have to be willing to ask for the support that we need. Absolutely. There's no shame in that. And I think in my experience, I was taught a lot about being independent and doing things on your own. That was really indoctrinated into me. But it was so extreme that it was like you had to wait until the very last minute, the very last second of when you're going to fall off the cliff before you ask for support. And I used to think, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Like totally do it totally on your own until the very last minute when you're on the cliff. And I don't believe in that anymore. I don't believe that you have to do it on your own and struggle and struggle and struggle before you get support. And I think the same goes for, receiving it. Yeah, I lost my train of thought, I'm gonna be honest. But my feistiness here is really about honoring yourself, loving yourself enough that you're willing to ask for support. And even if it's uncomfortable, we live in a society where it's very individualistic, and it's not this like village, it takes a village feel. But that is really how life works. It takes a village. It takes a village to get to where you want to be and go where you want to go. And I especially see this with people who are shifting careers or changing careers or need a new job or are unemployed. And there's such a hesitancy to A, speak your truth and say, hey, I'm in this situation. But B, there's such a hesitancy to say, hey, this is what I need. This is what I need help with. There's no shame in that. And I see it hold a lot of people back because they're afraid to ask for what they need. And I think that there's a huge step in even identifying what you need. I think it is very hard to identify that sometimes, especially when we're not used to it. So how can you start to ask yourself, what is it I need in this moment? Maybe I need a shoulder to cry on. Maybe I need to share my idea. in a no judgment zone. And then you can ask specifically for that. That's a big part of receiving support, is really identifying what is it you need so that you can tell the other person in the group, hey, what I actually need is I just need you to listen to this idea. I don't really want an opinion. I just want to say it out loud so that it becomes more real and I crystallize it, right? That's very different than saying, I want to know what you think, because maybe you don't really need someone else's opinion. Maybe you just need to voice it. So get clear on that. And you know, I find that really helpful for myself when somebody says to me, hey, I don't need your advice, because we all know I like to give advice. I don't need your advice. I just need to let this out. And we are in a time in which people need a lot of support. People need to let things out. They just need to voice. And so whether you're giving or receiving, ask what that is. Ask what it is that you need. And what the other person needs. That way you know how to be in that moment and you don't have to stress out about, I have to solve this or I have to fix this. Because more often than not, people don't need you to fix something for them. They just need open ears. And we're in this moment where we may need circles of support. We may need army of support behind us because it's really, really hard. And that's okay too. So finding those places that you can go to have conversations, to process. We're just in that, you know, kind of really important moment. And I was just looking at what, sorry, I was looking at my notes because I had things I wanted to say. So the other thing I was going to say about this was, people, if your cup is empty, or if the other person's cup is empty, or half full, even if it's full, sometimes you can't give, and that's okay. And sometimes they can't give, and that's okay. You have to find somebody else. Because when we give, we have to give from an overflowing cup, from a place of abundance of energy to give. And a lot of times, the challenges that we face is that we're giving from empty cups and it feels horrible and you feel drained. So it's so important to fill yourself up. And I think we're in a moment in time where everybody's really drained. It's hard to fill ourselves up because the normal ways that we fill ourselves up aren't accessible to us. So we also have to find other ways to fill ourselves up. And from that place, we can give. And from that place, other people can give. So really consider, where is your cup? Because if you're being asked for support, you may have to hold a boundary. You may have to say, you know, I can listen for like 15 minutes, but then I really have to go, because you know you don't have that much to give. So I encourage you to really ask yourself, what do you need? Who can you ask that might be able to support you in that? And if you get a no, or if you get a rejection, or if it's not the right time, find another person. Don't let that stop you from getting what you need. And if you're being asked for support, check in with yourself. Do you have the energy? Do you have an overflowing cup from which to give? Because then you can be sure that if you're giving from an overflowing place, after you give, you still have a full cup for yourself. Again, I'll bring it back to a time when a lot of people need support for many different reasons, whether it's financial, whether it's looking for a job, whether it's emotional. And if we just keep denying ourselves that support, or any support, if we close ourselves off to it, it is going to be so much harder to recover, to heal, to be where we want to be. You know, and from personal experience, I spent much of my life doing everything on my own, and also without a spiritual practice to believe that some other higher power was helping me out. I put a lot of pressure on myself for making everything happen, for making everything possible in my life. And that is a lot of pressure. And when I finally started working with a coach, And I realized like, oh, I don't have to do this on my own. Oh, I can ask for support before I'm on the edge of the cliff. Like, it was kind of life-changing, and I'm not gonna lie, like, I'm still working on it. I'm still struggling with figuring out what do I need and when do I need it and who can I ask and who can I trust. So it is definitely a process. Probably for me, it'll be lifelong, but I think it's getting easier and it's getting better. So I'm hoping that on this Feisty Friday and beyond, you start to consider, where can I get support? What do I need? Am I able to hold space for others when they ask me? Do I need to hold boundaries? As well as on an organizational level, where do you need support? You know, maybe you don't have all the skill sets you need in the organization right now to handle everything that's going on. And it is your duty and it is your right to say, I need support in this area and I have to find a budget or a way to do it. And that is a responsibility versus saying, we don't know what we're really doing, but we don't have a budget. No, that is not leadership. Leadership is saying, we need this kind of support and you have to go fight for it, whether it's to the C-suite, whether it's to the board or what have you, because we all need a different kind of support today than we've needed at this scale before. So I encourage you to take action on getting the support that you need and researching this. Again, I definitely recommend taking a look at Brene Brown's excerpt on trust with Super Soul Sundays with Oprah. It was a really great 20-minute segment. It's really short, but it really helps explain how trust not only can be helpful for you, but also helpful in building great relationships with others. So this was my kind of subdued Feisty Friday, but don't think that I'm not super passionate about this, because I know that getting the support you need it can change your life. So go out there and get it. Thanks so much and talk soon. Again, I'm Tosca Di Matteo with Tosca Coaching and Consulting.